Another thing that was noticeable is the price differences across the country are much greater than they are in Britain. I mean, even though maybe getting a pint in Wales is cheaper than getting one in London, things like fuel and clothing and food could be dramatically more expensive in one place than another place.
In Connecticut, the fuel costs 50% more than the fuel in the south, for example. And we did experience some of the fluctuations. The price of fuel's been going down. At the moment, it's $1.99 a gallon, which is cheap. But even so, the regional differences are huge. And some of that is because the states can set their own taxes. There are some other factors like proximity to oil refineries and how remote you are. The price went up a bit, I think, in North Dakota, even though they've got lots of oil because they're not allowed to refine it there, so it gets sent down to Texas and back. The price difference in lots of things were huge. It's more like going to foreign countries and thinking, oh, that's quite cheap. Or presumably people in the cheaper regions find it quite jarring visiting the Northeast, for example.
Yes, I'm sure going from South Carolina to Connecticut is a financial hardship. But, something else that was surprising was how different driving styles were. And this wasn't just an urban-rural thing, like people might think, oh, people in the countryside are more polite. No.
There were big cultural differences across the United States. I made mistakes when driving, because driving on the right and driving quite far and things. Different places were forgiving to different degrees, and Indiana wasn't, and Rhode Island was. That was one of the factors, I think, that influenced which states we liked the most and least.
It wasn't even regional, it really was state lines. You know, for instance, Indiana, very rude drivers, Nebraska, very polite drivers, but then Rhode Island, very nice drivers, right above them, Massachusetts, crazy drivers. Not necessarily rude, just very excitable.
Yeah, so something else is, when you drive around, things are more spread out than in England. But there's another thing that I noticed is when we were driving along motorways, you'd see more stuff, you'd see more manufacturing. So you'd often drive past 200 new tractors, and they wouldn't be fenced in, they're just sitting there. And I thought, well, someone could go and steal them, or camper vans or something. That you'd get lots of factories right by the side of the road. There weren't any barriers or fences. Actually, come to think of it, the houses tend not to have fences. Things are just open, they're just not fenced that much. It sounds a bit insecure, but one of the advantages is that if you've got, say, two shops that are together, you'll often be able to drive between those two shops. So if you've passed one shop, you can go in Walmart and then drive back into some other parking lot, and they're all joined up. Whereas in Britain, even if they're right next to each other, there'll be some bit of concrete or a wire fence that keeps those apart. You have to go back onto the main road and go back in. But no, there's a whole sort of network of roads behind buildings that you can navigate through. I didn't know that.
That was both surprising and a minor difference.
Yes. I wasn't expecting to meet someone who sounded like Elvis. Now, I don't think it's... it isn't just me hearing anyone from the south or whatever, but there was this Pitmaster, and he had that accent Elvis had. Obviously, Elvis had an accent. This man, when I said something to him, he said, like, "You kidding, man?" or something. It just sounded like
Elvis.
Yeah. And he was from around the same area, because I think Elvis is the only person I heard with that accent until that day. Well, that was quite fun, actually.
It was actually also surprising to meet someone that was a pitmaster. I didn't really know that pork expert was a job. That's a bit like finding out, ice cream taster's a job when you're a kid.
And he was saying he knew everything about pork, pig,
It was also surprising to learn that there was a sunbelt from Oklahoma to Arizona, get 300 days of sun a year. I didn't know that was an option, but I'm very pleased to know that.
Something that I hadn't experienced before. I experienced time very differently. We often said, do you remember when we were swimming in the Atlantic? Feeling that it was several weeks ago, and it was 2 days before. It passed in this very strange way where we did so much. Obviously, it's not sustainable travelling around and doing that kind of thing, but that was a very weird feeling.
Yes, I think it was such ceaseless novelty, and we did so much in any given day. Like, sometimes people who have been following the blog might notice that we split days up. Like, there was a day where we woke up in Maine, did some stuff in Maine, and then we did Boston and the state of Massachusetts, and then went to sleep in Rhode Island, and that was so dense in terms of experiences that it really was like 3 days, and we were about as tired as we would have been if we'd just been doing things for 3 days straight like that.
You're probably thinking that, oh, well, we didn't do it properly, but I think we did as much as we could. We basically packed stuff in and then crashed at the end of the day. I think it's the comparison. When we were in England, I felt like I couldn't remember 3 things that I'd done in the previous year a lot of the time, so this was a big change. Yeah, I think that's all we've got for the moment.
Yes, that's what was surprising about our journey.